Wow! Wow! Wow!
That's pretty much what you think of when you think Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, isn't it? Glamour, glitz, and plenty of gorgeous girls. Yes, glamour was the heart of MGM, but that's only half the story. What happened to the largest of Hollywood's dream factories? How did it come to be? And where did it go? Now there's a story worth telling. As any good story does, it begins with a man, or rather with two. The first, Louis B. Mayer, immigrated to the United States from Russia in 1888. Mayer's love for movies led him through a string of odd jobs until he had enough money to form the Mayer Production Company. The company's headquarters, along with Mayer himself, moved to California in 1918. Irving Thalberg, MGM's co-founder, had earned the title of Hollywood's boy genius early on. At 20 years old, he'd become head of Universal Studios, the youngest man ever to hold that position. By the time Thalberg met Mayer in 1923, he was bored at Universal and looking for new challenges. Lucky for Mayer, and lucky for MGM. Mayer Pictures merged with the Metro and Goldwyn Studios on April 26, 1924, to become the mega studio we remember today. The third person in the photograph? That would be Mrs. Thalberg, MGM contract player Norma Shearer. Shearer and Thalberg married in 1927, becoming one of Hollywood's first power couples. Tragically, their happiness was cut short when Thalberg died of pneumonia in 1936. His age? Just 37. MGM, like most studios, profited nicely during the 1920s. A chain of command had formed with Marcus Lowe and Nicholas Schenck heading the New York offices, while Mayer and Thalberg oversaw productions in the Culver City studio, seen here from the front. But nothing could prepare Hollywood for The Jazz Singer, the film that brought sound to the movies. Mayer and Thalberg, convinced that sound was merely a fad, passed on the idea of making a talkie. Finally, an order from Mayer's enemy Schenck forced MGM to accept sound in 1929. MGM may not have been the first studio to release a sound picture, but it was the first to win an Oscar for one. The Broadway Melody opened in 1929 to rave reviews, returning MGM to #1 at the box office and establishing the movie musical as standard entertainment. By the 1930s, MGM had clearly expanded into the largest of Hollywood's major studios, with lots spanning 172 acres and employing over 4,000 people. Unlike other studios, threatened with bankruptcy by the Great Depression, MGM sailed blissfully through the lean years thanks to its glittering films and dazzling array of stars. Mayer prided himself on cultivating some of the most recognizable stars in film, as well he should. Many MGM contract players remain well known to this day. In this picture, the annual family photo, are Mickey Rooney, Katharine Hepburn, Lucille Ball, and many others. Glossy fare, particularly musicals, continued to define MGM into the years of World War II. When a substantial chunk of the studio roster left to fight the Nazis, Mayer did what he did best, distracted the masses with lush Technicolor fantasies. These musicals would form the backbone of MGM's turnout well into the 1950s, as shown by this still from An American in Paris. The post-war years held another threat for Mayer. Nicholas Schenck, his adversary in New York, hired screenwriter and producer Dori Schary as MGM's new associate vice president in charge of production. Schary favored the gritty, realistic style of film that was becoming popular. Naturally, he and Mayer repeatedly clashed. Schary detested stars and let actors' contracts lapse one by one. Fed up with the new chain of command, Mayer himself resigned in 1951. Many at MGM believed Mayer had taken the essence of the studio with him, and the old years seemed gone forever when the mogul died in 1957. Few people supported Schary, whose tendency to fire actors allowed the studio's profits to plummet. Corporate battles led to a revolving door of MGM executives being hired and fired in rapid succession. Businessman Kirk Kerkorian gets the most blame for ruining MGM. Kerkorian took over the studio in 1969, auctioning off the props and costumes left from classic films. By the 1970s, little remained of Mayer's MGM. Ted Turner and Time Warner now own the MGM Film Library, and Sony the studio lots, but MGM was a ghost town for much of the 1970s and 80s. MGM was merely not built to survive without glamour, and the public agreed. Though the old studio faded away, it lingers on film and in our memories just as Mayer intended, full of glamour, glitz, and of course, gorgeous girls.